Hi everybody. This video goes over the last assignment for English 680. So for this final assignment, you are going to write a commentary and inline comments on a sample of student writing as well as a reflection. So when you go onto Blackboard, in addition to this assignment prompt, you will also find a Word file that has a sample student paper, and this is a real piece of student writing that was submitted for an English 101 class, as well as the assignment prompt that the student was responding to. And so I am asking you to basically do three things. Write a commentary on that, possibly do inline comments on that, and write a reflection. And I'll go over each of these in detail, but first let me say that I want you to imagine that this sample is still being developed and that the student has the opportunity to revise it further. So you should not treat this assignment as finished and like you're just giving grades and sort of justifying the grade. I want you to treat this assignment as a draft that the student is still working on. And the three components together are due Tuesday, December 10th. Please submit the commentary and the reflection to Blackboard. The inline comments, however, you have a couple different ways to submit those. So you can just download the Word document off of Blackboard and use the comment tool in Word for the inline comments, as well as you can use any of the other markup tools in Word that you want. And then you can just submit that Word document along with the commentary and the reflection. You can print the student paper out, and then you can physically write your inline comments on the paper, and then you can scan it and submit that PDF along with the commentary and the reflection. If you do this, it is your responsibility to ensure that your comments are legible on the scanned PDF. In the past, I've had students do this, and I couldn't necessarily read what they were saying in some cases, and that made it really difficult to assess. So if you're doing this method, you need to make sure that all of your comments are legible. And then the last option is to print out the student paper, write the inline comments on the paper copy, and then just turn the hard copy into my mailbox, which is in the main English office. And you can also do that as well. If you do this, however, please still turn in the commentary and the reflection to Blackboard. If you have something turned into Blackboard, it makes it much easier for me to grade it and keep track of your grades. So if you have any questions about any of those methods, just let me know. And then also keep in mind that the unit of writing assignments, so the other final project for this class, is due on the same time. Is due on the same day. So I encourage you to keep that in mind and budget your time well. And if you do need extension, please let me know well in advance, optimally at least a week. Okay, so with that out of the way, let me talk about each of these components. So the first thing that you absolutely need to do is to write a comment on the student, a comment in response to the paper that I've given you. And you should be intentionally using what we've read and practiced as a guide. And if you want, you can also include comments on student errors in the writing. However, it should primarily be focused on offering constructive criticism and suggestions for further revision. And as I say here, it should be 1 to 2 paragraphs long. And as I said earlier, please keep in mind that this is a piece of student writing that theoretically the student is still working on. So this should be, you're basically providing them with comments that they can use to then revisit and improve the piece of student writing. So in addition to that commentary, I also want, or at least you have the option of producing inline comments on the piece of student writing. So along with the commentary, you should feel free to mark errors on this piece of student writing, or if you want, you can ignore the errors if you think that's appropriate, and make inline comments on the student writing, and then turn that in as well. And this isn't necessarily required, but if you don't do this, you need to provide a pretty sound explanation for why you chose not to do this in your reflection. And then finally, in your reflection, you should basically answer these questions that I give you. So the first question is, how did you approach the task of commenting on the piece of student writing. What did you find difficult about this task? What did you try to accomplish? So, what were your sort of goals as someone who was commenting on the student writing for a student writer who is going to be, potentially revising this piece? Is there anything you noticed about the student writing but left out of your commentary or inline comments? And if so, why did you leave it out? And then finally, how did you put into practice what we've read and discussed in class about commenting on the piece of student writing? And that last question is especially important because what I want you to do is to explain how you are consciously trying to demonstrate the principles that we have talked about in discussion and that we've also been reading about in the assigned readings. And if you scroll down further, you'll see that there's a rubric here. I won't go over it in detail, but I encourage you to let me know if you have any questions about that. And let me just go back and say that in the reflection, I do encourage you to, when appropriate, directly quote from readings, or at least provide sort of examples or summaries from the readings that we've done, especially the readings that address responding to student writing. So that would be the article by Peter Elbow, and then also the article by Nancy Summers that we just read. So let me know if you have any questions about that. And otherwise, I look forward to seeing your responses to student writing.